What's up, everybody at ComicWow? This is Gigi coming at you from San Diego Comic-Con International 2015. I'm in the Dark Horse booth again. This time I'm with Christos Gage. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So you and I just did a little pre-interview, and there's a lot of projects that you were involved in, so we'll take it a little bit at a time. Firstly, you worked on Law & Order SVU as a screenwriter. I have to throw that in there because anybody that knows me, I'm a junkie. That is my binge watch show. What was it like working on something like that?
It was great because it was, wonderful actors, wonderful writers, producers, cast. Everybody was great. At the same time, it was funny because you're dealing with these horrible things that happen to people. So you're given, at the beginning of the season, you get these binders full of actual cases. Because as you know, Law & Order is big on ripped from the headlines, even though they diverge from what really happened, but they're always based on actual cases. So you get these binders full of cases that might provide story ideas, and you read through it and you're like, oh my God, there's some really sick, crazy people out there. So in that sense, it's a little bit scary. But in terms of actually working on the show, it was really terrific. I mean, we had such good... Mariska Hargitay, Chris Maloney were amazing, such good actors, and we had such great guest actors. On one of our episodes, we had Michael Emerson from Lost and Person of Interest. We had Viola Davis on one of our episodes.
I've seen them all, Christos.
So it was wonderful, and it was such a great learning experience.
Now, how does that compare to doing something like, so you've also worked on Daredevil, and how does that compare, because obviously writing can be a very emotionally draining experience, so to be working on something that maybe you don't have the ability to make it such a happy ending on something like Law & Order, but in other books you kind of expect to be going in that direction. Did you find that the Law & Order was a little bit more emotionally draining, as you said, because it's ripped from the headlines and kind of puts you a little bit more in perspective of what's going on in the real world?
I think it was okay for us because we didn't do it that much. I could see being on a show like that for 5 years, it might get that way. I know it was funny because we talked to Ice-T. I talked to Ice-T on the set, and he said ever since he started doing the show, when he's at a hotel pool, he starts matching up adults with kids to make sure that there aren't creepy dudes out there watching the kids who aren't with any of the kids. So I could see that happening, but. As far as the differences, really, it's more about the tone. Daredevil was a little more action-oriented, excuse me, but there was also some really cool religious stuff, like Matt's Catholicism, that I know Ruth really enjoyed working on, and so did I. So it's really more about making sure you get the voice of the show right and continuing what's working. So, Now, you've also worked on Buffy, a big fan base there, from the movie to the TV, comic, everything. So what is it like as a male writer working on a female character? What is that like? Well, on the one hand, I think every character is unique. Their gender is a part of who they are, but I've always believed that obviously people can write characters, hopefully writers can write characters who aren't like them. On the other hand, I am conscious of the fact that Buffy is a character that for a lot of female fans represents sort of empowerment and, a character who really does things for herself and, isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, certainly makes mistakes, but always is strong and, I know what she means to people. So that I'm conscious of and wanting to, make sure I don't diverge from that. But if I did, obviously, my editors and Joss and everybody would probably say, "Hey, what are you doing here?" The episode. If I start to write an issue where Buffy is just dissolves into a puddle of tears because nobody's asking her to the prom, I shouldn't be writing that book.
That makes sense. Can you talk to us a little bit about Angel and Faith?
Yeah, that was a great experience, and one of the things I thought was really cool about it is. And that Rebecca, our writer, specifically said, and a lot of people have said to me, is they really enjoy the fact that this is a book where you have a male and female lead who are friends and partners, and there's no romance between them. And I think that that's true because you don't see it very often, but obviously in real life, there are plenty of men and women who work together, are friends, whatever, and they just relate to each other as people. So I think it's important to show that. And in fact, when we first started, there was always the question, hey, maybe there should be some romance between these two. And ultimately, we all felt like, you know what? It's working as it is, and let's just keep it this way. And I'm kind of surprised in a good way by how many people come up to me and say, I really like this fact about this book. So that meant a lot.
That actually is a really good point, because I can relate to that, as Michael Pierre, our cameraman, and I have been friends for a very long time without any kind of romantic link. Because it is, I think the public craves it after a while because they want to see that tension, but it's a good way to illustrate that relationships can exist like that. So that's an awesome.
And I get it. If you've got characters you love, the next logical step is, hey, let's see them together, but the other thing is, be careful what you wish for. Like, happy relationships are not that interesting to watch.
That's very true. A lot of shows go downhill once they put the two characters together. So next big project that you've got working on that you want to let the ComicWow fans know about?
Well, obviously we're continuing on Buffy. I think issue 16 just came out, so we're right around the halfway point in terms of what's been released, and some exciting stuff coming up. We're in the middle of the Angel crossover. He's back, and obviously a very thorny time when, spoiler alert, Buffy and Spike have gotten together romantically. What? I know.
That's crazy.
So all kinds of shenanigans ensue. It's really cool. And then let's see, we've got a few more issues coming up from Megan Levins, our great fill-in artist, in addition to Rebecca, our amazing regular artist. And then, of course, my wife Ruth and I, as I was telling you before, have an original graphic novel coming out from Oni Press called The Line of Aurora. It's a historical epic in the vein of Braveheart. It's drawn by Jackie Lewis, who is terrific. She drew Play Ball for Oni Press, another graphic novel. And The Line of Aurora is a story that is about Ruth's actual ancestors, a people called the Waldensians, who most people don't know about, but what they did was affected the American Revolution, the Protestant Reformation, and basically they were a persecuted people who were the first case in European history where people rose up to rebel against their leader for the purposes of religious freedom. And these people won some amazing, their leader was called Joshua Jeannevel, and he won some amazing battles, like 5 men against an army of 500, and the 5 people would win because they knew the terrain and they had such great tactical knowledge. So this is a story that Ruth has been researching for a long time. We've been working on it a long time, and we're so excited to see it finally come out on August 5th, so we hope people will check it out.
All right, fantastic. Thanks so much for your time. Just let everybody know where on any social media or online they can find out more about you, and we can post it on ComicWow.
Awesome. I'm on Twitter at Christos Gage, all one word, and that's the best place to find me.
All right, fantastic. Well, for ComicWow, I'm Gigi. This is Christos Gage, and you're welcome.